I think the value too is like you're having a constructive conversation, right? Like that's kind of where I think we need to be is like every time I see a headline that's like things are really bad, it's like, okay, but
Yes.
what do we do about it, right? So it's got to be
Yes.
constructive. That's what I love about what you guys are doing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I have a friend who says truth travels best on the road of relationships. And I love that phrase.
I'm going to
Um,
steal that.
yeah, it's great, isn't it? I've stolen it from him. And and that's part of the really cool thing about the week is that it could be the type of thing that you're really passionate about or you're really interested in learning more about climate, and you don't quite know how to explain it to your family or friends. You don't know if everybody's going to be on the same page, or you don't want to get into an argument. The week really facilitates those kinds of courageous conversations.
I'm Dr. Stephanie Wilson. I'm a historian, an activist, and the host of the Freedom Over Fascism podcast, where we talk to people who give us insight into the current political moment, inspiration for state and local organizing, and connections with our co-conspirators all across the country. You'll meet rural organizers who focus on electing young and diverse candidates, independent journalists who prioritize democracy over disinformation, and candidates building change at the state and local level. I invite you to join the Freedom Over Fascism community and listen to Freedom Over Fascism wherever you get your podcasts.
All right. So, Rob Ryers, I am so excited to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining us today at Politics for Parents. I'm really excited to do an episode about climate with you because, we're recording this right now in the wake of Hurricane Milton, Hurricane Helene. I mean, this has been an unprecedented, I think, time in weather patterns and climate for our country that we're really starting to face the reality. So thank you so much for joining us today. I know you're really busy. You're on a bus right now. So.
That's okay. It's my pleasure. Thank you, Nicole, for having me.
Okay, so you are the U.S. director for The Week. And The Week is a program, you're a global nonprofit, and you're really focused on getting people to convene friends, coworkers, colleagues, loved ones, to engage in a week of, climate, contemplating climate change, and then taking climate action. So you want to talk a little bit about what The Week is? I mean, it's a great concept.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah, yeah. So, we are, our mission is to increase the awareness, acceptance, and action related to the climate crisis. And the way that we do that is by trying to focus in on what we call the broad middle.
Right.
There's we're not so much focused on like the climate activists at one end of the spectrum or the climate deniers at the other end of the spectrum. Like we're thinking about that parent who is like, I think something's happening, but my kid has a soccer game tonight, and it's just not like it might be important, it might be slightly on their radar, but it is just not at the top of their priority list at all. There's just
Right.
too much regular life going on to think about it. And we
So
think that those
that's
people,
me.
yeah.
You're
And
talking to me.
and yeah, there's a variety of reasons why, why that is.
Right.
And sometimes it's kind of willful, because it's really overwhelming and it's such a big topic that there's people that just don't want to have to think about it. And so what we're doing is we're trying to focus on those folks and help move them towards greater acceptance, awareness, and action. And the way that we do that is we've put together 3 documentary films that followed the journey of our founders, Frederick and Helene, who kind of had this same transformation themselves.
Right.
They were those people who, yeah, something's going on, but it's just not a priority.
Right.
And so they kind of share their story, and the films are designed for people to watch together in groups and to learn and to get activated.
Great. And I love your focus on the broad middle because that's kind of where I'm coming from with this project as well. There are so many
Yeah.
people that consider themselves not political for different reasons. I mean, with climate, I think
Yeah.
in each case, I think the media plays a large role, right? I mean, like the political discourse in this country is so um, just heated, right? And everyone's all angry.
Yes.
And I can totally get why someone who's a busy parent is just like, I don't have time for this. Like, you know what? Like, this just is
Yeah.
ugly. But we all care about things that impact our day-to-day lives. And climate is increasingly one of them. I mean, even here in New Jersey, a few summers ago, we had a few days where we couldn't go outside because of wildfires in Canada. The air quality was terrible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I get that. And,
Yeah.
I can see as a parent too, it's the climate doomerism in the media. It makes you feel overwhelmed. You're like, well, where do I even start? I mean, Florida is going to be like wiped
Yeah.
off the map. Like, what can I do about that? Like, I don't have money for a Tesla and I'm not going
Yeah.
to replace solar. So I really like that you guys are kind of bringing in people that like want to do something, are aware. But aren't ready to just kind of like devote their whole life and like get rid of every plastic item in their house. It's hard with our lifestyle. Um,
Yeah.
can we talk a
Yeah.
little bit
Oh, for
kind of
sure.
um like logistically, like how does the week work? If I went to your website
Yeah.
and said, "Oh, I want to do this." Like how does it actually
Mhm.
look in practice?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's super easy to organize.
Okay.
You go to our website, which is theweek.ooo,
Okay.
which um, I I it's the only website I know with that
Yeah, it
ending, but
is
it's so
different.
yeah, it's hopefully it's memorable. Yeah, it's not a .com or a .org. It's theweek.ooo,
Mhm.
and you go there, and in up in the top right hand corner, there's a little button that says organize a session. You can click on that, and it walks you through the process of organizing a session with family, friends, colleagues, faith groups, whatever it might be.
Great.
Um, they can be done online, like
Okay.
through Zoom, or they can be done in person. Either way, um, and it's really kind of plug and play where you can push play and go. And the films are about an hour long, and then there's typically about a 30-minute discussion that happens after. Um, the films lead right into that discussion, so you don't feel like, oh, I've never like facilitated a small group discussion before.
Uh-huh.
It's super easy, and
Okay.
it's set up to be the type of thing that folks can use um, very intuitively and simply.
Okay.
Um, we it's called the week because we encourage folks um, to watch the films within the course of a week.
Okay.
Um, because there's something about kind of that concentrated attention that's really good.
Uh-huh.
That being said, if the way schedules are, if it's got to be once every 3 weeks or something like that, like there's there's no calendar police that are coming after you.
Okay.
Um, Now, one of the things that we really strongly encourage is the week is designed to be done in groups.
Right.
It's not the type of thing that you want to binge alone by yourself late at night.
Mhm.
It's really designed to be done in groups, and that's for a couple of reasons. One is because you just need to process. You talk through it.
Right.
There's some heavy stuff, and there's
Hmm.
some really important stuff, and you need a group of people to kind of talk through that with. Um, the other reason it's designed to be done in groups is that our theory of change is that transformation really tends to stick
Uh-huh.
when it happens in community.
Right.
Um, and when you've got a group of friends or family or coworkers that you're doing the week with, and you get a sense of like, okay, like this is something we can do together, and
Hmm.
it tends to stick better. And one of the statistics I really love is that we do impact studies of people who've been through the week,
Right.
and 6 months after going through the week, 86% of people are still calling it a before and after experience in their life.
Wow.
It's the type of thing that, yeah, it really like gives people a new perspective, a new set, and not just new perspective, but a new sense of hope and optimism, and like,
Right.
okay, we can do this.
And that was going to be my next question was, well, I'm before and after, like, was I like aloof before and now I'm totally depressed? But no, I mean, as long as it's inspiring hope,
Yeah,
um, and as
yeah,
long as, the
yeah, and
people that watch it, like, they feel impacted and empowered, right? So they're
yes,
continuing to take action. That's like the most important
yes,
piece, I think, right?
yes. So the way we describe it is that the films take you on a U-shaped journey.
Okay.
Um, the first film is difficult. It's
Yeah.
hard. It's like it is. It deals with the mess we've gotten ourselves into,
Hmm.
and without without being too much of a spoiler,
Yeah.
um, there's a kind of part of the thing is like thinking about someone in your life and how old they're going to be in 30, 40, 50 years,
Right.
and and imagining the world that they're going to be living in. And as a dad, I've got three kids that are in their 20s, and then I've got a 10-year-old. And we I joke, my wife hates this joke, but I always joke that we have our oh no, what have we done baby, who just reset the clock on everything in our lives. um, and and so for me, like thinking about like what's the world my kids are going to live in, and how
Exactly.
different is it going to be, and so that first film is like it's heavy duty, and really well done, and not like it's not going to be it's not going to send you into despair, but it's very sobering.
Okay.
The second film kind of deals with um, how we got here. What are the systems that have brought this about? And what are the stories we've told ourselves? What are the narratives that have driven this, that we've kind of believed, that have brought this about?
Right.
And then the third film really kind of takes you up the U, and it's like, okay, what do we do now? And it's very hopeful, very optimistic, very joyful.
Okay.
There's something very generative and life-giving about saying, okay, I can do something, we can do something about this.
Mhm.
And the week is not prescriptive in the sense that, like, okay, everybody who goes through the week is now going to give up plastic straws.
Right.
It's very like it's not like demanding everybody like in a cookie cutter kind of approach. Everybody does the same thing.
Mhm.
It's much more about like, hey, there's different categories of action. There's different things that all sorts of different people do, and depending on where you're at in the world, your situation in life, your interests, all like you're gonna get plugged in and do things that fit for you. And there's something very hopeful and optimistic about that.
I think the value too is like you're having a constructive conversation, right? Like that's kind of where I think we need to be is like every time I see a headline that's like things are really bad, it's like, okay, but
Yes.
what do we do about it, right? So it's got to be
Yes.
constructive. That's what I love about what you guys are doing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I have a friend who says truth travels best on the road of relationships. And I love that phrase.
That's I'm going to
Um,
steal that.
yeah, it's great, isn't it? I've stolen it from him. And and that's part of the really cool thing about the week is that it could be the type of thing that you're really passionate about, or you're really interested in learning more about climate, and you don't quite know how to explain it to your family or friends.
Mhm.
You don't know if everybody's going to be on the same page, or you don't want to get into an argument. The week really facilitates those kinds of courageous conversations.
Right.
And in we're the week's available all over the world,
Mhm.
and have had tens of thousands of people use the week in Western Europe, and in here in the United States. um you know Climate has become so politicized
Right.
that you can tell who someone's going to vote for based on what they think about the climate.
Yes.
and and
That.
vice versa. You can tell what someone thinks about the climate based on who they're going to vote for. And I think it's a real tragedy here in the US that this thing that affects all of us and is so critical and should be uniting and galvanizing
Uh-huh.
instead fractures us. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so for those folks that are like, I think I want to have some conversations about this, but I don't know how to do it. The week really is a fantastic tool to facilitate those kinds of conversations, with folks that are in your life that, that maybe you're a little nervous about talking about some of this stuff with.
Well, that, and I mean, for me personally, I mean, I do my best to take steps and to kind of like raise awareness with my family members. I think my brother is so sick and tired of me lecturing him about plastic in his house and stuff like that. So
Yes.
I think it would be great to have some tools to, again, talk to people constructively and maybe not like, pester them like I do. That's probably my
Yes.
so natural disposition as his older sister. Um, but I love that. And I also love the community aspect because I think we're also coming at a time where, as you mentioned, this topic, sadly to say, so many people do, highlight how it's become politicized at a time when things are so divisive in this country. And we're also facing a loneliness crisis, right? We're still coming out of COVID and
Mm.
that collective trauma we all experience from being isolated. And we're experiencing a lot of the detriment of that isolation in people's mental health, and a
Mm.
variety of issues. So I think anything that brings people together in community, in such a constructive way, I think that's like really, it's powerful. Um, and also, I mean, this is something I think a lot of people would agree. We just all need to be talking about. Like, we just need to bring this into our
Yes.
daily lexicon and start having this be a very normal topic of conversation. Not a scary one, not a pointing fingers
Yeah.
one, but like,
Yeah.
this is where we are. Like, you talk about sports all the time, or recipes, or clothing. Like, this should be a very prominent topic.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think that I, we, as we're having this conversation, the U.S. Is in the midst of just, horrible hurricanes. Helene, last week, and
Mhm.
Milton last night. And, I think there, people are, the more we have those kinds of situations, I think there's going to be those people who are conspiracy theories, like a certain congresswoman from North Carolina who talked
Yeah.
about how stoking conspiracies about people controlling the weather.
Yeah. You can't do anything about that.
Just ridiculous. But as people are experiencing these, like, it's got there. I think I wonder about, I think, kind of as an analogy, I think about World War II, and the U.S. didn't want to get involved, and
Hmm.
the public opinion was that we don't want to. This is Europe's problem. We're not
Yeah.
we're not getting involved. And then Pearl Harbor happened,
Hmm.
and in a very short period of time, public opinion completely shifted,
Right.
and then there was mobilization to do something, together, unified as a country. Um, I don't want the Pearl Harbor
Right.
of climate change to happen, but I
Mhm.
but I think at some point it's going to.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be something, and I don't know. It's a little bit frustrating that we haven't had it already. Everything from, like, you talk about wildfires to these hurricanes, the tornadoes that have been devastating, in the Midwest and the South. I mean, I'm currently in Arizona in October, and at 7 o'clock at night last night it was 107 degrees.
Oh, right.
It's
They've been
just
having
it's,
record heat.
it's yes, it's just like, what is,
Yeah.
like, what in the world? And so like I I wonder what that thing is going to be that is going to shift, really galvanize public opinion, so that, like, okay, now we're going to focus in on that. And then until that happens, the week is something that, we've got to keep moving in that direction as much as we possibly can.
Yeah. So I guess, a little bit, let's talk a little bit about just like this positive aspect, right? You talk
Yeah.
about how people feel like it's got a positive impact on their outlook. They feel hopeful. People are taking action. Could you give an example or two of someone who kind of took what they learned and put it into action in a positive way to give people a
Yeah.
sense of, oh, like this is something that I could do too.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent question. There's so many different things from, um, it it's so important to remember that there's lots of different ways to be involved. and
Right.
and one of the cool things about the films is they tell the stories of different people that are involved in different ways,
Hmm.
and that's so helpful because maybe you'll see yourself in something in one of those people, where you might not see yourself in the farmers in Maine, but you might see yourself in the mom who's a doctor in San Francisco, or the guy in Texas who changed jobs because he was a truck driver, and didn't want to be involved in that industry anymore, and so he became a truck driver for an electric truck company.
Okay.
Um, and so I think people are going to be able to see themselves that way. Um,
Right.
there has been um, so we encourage the films and the content's all the same, but we kind of organize our activation around some different focuses. We have what we call the week at home,
Okay.
which is doing the week with family, friends, neighbors, that kind of thing.
Okay.
We have the week at campus, which is
Mhm.
focused in on young people, college students,
Perfect.
and young people. We have what we call the week at faith, which is faith communities, churches, um, you know, those kinds of things, because they are so much. There's kind of two things for that. One is that's a place where community exists,
Uh-huh.
and also a place where people are thinking about actions that they can take in the world.
Right.
And then we have the week at work, which is focused in on companies and businesses using the week in your workplace.
Hmm.
And it's been really fascinating to see, uh, companies that go through the week, and then the employees are coming up with ideas for how to have more sustainable practices in their offices. Or there's, a church who goes through the week and realize that they've got to, do some upgrades in their building to make it more energy efficient.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, Community, like a group in a neighborhood that that goes through the week together, and it changes the way that they garden in their backyards,
Right.
and what they're planting,
Hmm.
in their gardens, and 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 everything from maybe this whole idea of lawns isn't the best isn't the best idea humans have ever had.
Yeah,
And
that's a debate we've had in
neighbor,
our
like,
house.
yeah, like,
I won't tell my
and
husband you said that.
yeah. And so it's been really cool to see how, like, in these different contexts, like, there's been different things that have come about because groups of people have kind of strategized together and said, okay, what do we need to do in our area?
And that really highlights, I think, one of the things that kind of prevents people from taking action. Because if you think about all of that at once, right, it can seem kind of overwhelming. You're like, well, which direction I go to?
Mm,
But on the flip side, like we all need to do something, and there is something that everyone can do, right? So
yes.
I think that's like great that you guys give people that optionality and also do it in community and invite conversation so people can kind of like work through it and figure out like
Yes.
what their game plan is going to be. And you mentioned that the week is, there's different, I guess, modules for these various settings. Is it free or did you have to pay? What's that look like?
Yeah, great question. The week is completely free to use.
Mhm.
for at home, which is with family, friends, neighbors.
Yep.
Completely free to use for at campus, which is young people.
Uh-huh.
Completely free to use for at faith. The
Okay.
only place that we charge,
Uh-huh.
and it's a real modest fee, is the at work
Okay.
thing when you're doing it at your business. Um,
Okay.
because it's just we are a nonprofit,
Mhm.
but there are some costs involved with
Yeah.
the work that we do, and so so we do charge there. Now if people want to donate to the work that we do, that that's really appreciated and helpful, um,
Perfect.
but we're trying to get this trying to get these conversations going, and don't want finances to be a barrier to that in any way.
Wonderful. And you mentioned the campus module. Uh,
Mhm.
Now, what age would you recommend? Like maybe high
Yeah,
school,
yeah,
college, or
yeah.
okay.
We don't recommend the week for kids.
Mhm.
It's just it is this is it's a grown up approach
Yep.
to kind of understanding the climate change and
Hmm.
thinking it through.
Okay.
And so it's we recommend kind of 16 and up. There's been many universities here in the U.S. that have used the week on campus.
Hmm.
There's also been a few high schools that have incorporated it, not just with their faculty and staff, but also with some of their older students, and it's been really good. Though I do, I will say this about we've kind of talked a little bit about kind of eco anxiety,
Right.
and that's a real thing.
Hmm.
And my older kids, they feel it deeply,
Really.
and yeah, they really do. And so we have, as a part of built in as a part of the week, we've got some resources on our website. There's kind of three categories of resources that we have available. Um, one is for those people that are kind of feeling that eco anxiety and feel like they maybe need to talk to somebody,
Uh-huh.
or get some help in thinking through that, and
Okay.
kind of processing their emotions.
Uh-huh.
We've got some resources that are available to
Okay.
help with that.
Okay.
Um, the other two types of resources that we have. One is that some people are going to watch the week and they are going to want to dig into the science of it. They're going
Hmm.
to want to like really kind of dig in and investigate and learn more.
Okay.
Um, all of the science that is dealt with in the week, studies that are cited, and all sorts of those kinds of things are we've got organized and available on our website as
Okay.
resources for
Okay.
those people that want it. Some people don't want to do that, but we all have those folks in our lives
Yeah, it's great to
that
be
want to
informed
that
if that's for
yes that
you.
want to yeah that want to dive deep on that kind of stuff. And then we have resources for those that are thinking about what action they want to take and what they want to do. And so we've got a whole bunch of resources related to actions that people can take, suggestions, organizations that are doing things, and to help people kind of think that through. So what we're trying to do is build a platform that has not just these films that prompt the conversations, not just the conversation starters to help with that, but then also some follow up resources to help people where they're at.
Perfect. Well, it sounds like you guys have made it really accessible and pretty straightforward. So hopefully people can just hit play, learn what they need to do. Um, Before I
Yeah,
let you go, we can't ignore the fact that it's an election year. There's an election if you haven't heard. It's happening in a few
yeah,
weeks. Um, and
I have
one
heard.
one of the things I want to, I try to, reinforce is just that this is a situation where climate, like we need to take responsibility ourselves, right? There's a lot we as individuals can do in our homes and our lifestyles. But at the same time, our elected
Yeah.
officials can take a variety of actions to help combat climate change,
Yes.
to encourage behaviors and practices and corporate practices, especially to mitigate, the harm that we're doing and the rate at which we're doing it. So I'd love to just, get your thoughts for a minute, like as a voter, having this passion for the climate, and as
Yeah,
you go into the ballot box in November, like,
yeah,
what are you thinking? You're a parent as well. You feel this responsibility. So, like, what are your thoughts as you're looking at your ballot and who you're voting for within this context?
yeah, yeah. We've talked about how people have different approaches, and there's kind of different categories of action that the
Mhm.
week prompts. Um, One of those for me, as an individual, one of the ways that I'm taking action is is being very involved in the political process and um, trying to change. I one of one of the things I say often is that sometimes the easiest way to change policy is to change the policy makers. And instead of trying to convince somebody to think differently,
Yeah.
how about we just vote them out and replace them with someone that is in a better place on these issues. So I don't know if folks can tell, I'm sitting on a bus in a parking lot in Arizona right now. Um, I work with a group of people that travels around the country and tries to um, impact voters and help change some voting patterns.
Mhm.
And so I think, for me, um, the big the big issues, it's not like what marginal tax rate, bracket am I going to be on. I mean, that seems right now, that seems so trivial compared to democracy being
Mhm.
preserved
Right.
and the fate of the planet.
Right.
There's some of these issues that are just so big that some of the other stuff we argue about just seems so very just trivial. And so I am absolutely thinking about climate as I vote. Um, and I I, I don't know. I don't know how political we want to get here on the Politics for Parents podcast, but um, you know, I cannot vote for someone who denies, minimizes, or doesn't take seriously um, the reality of climate change, and I can't vote for someone who's not willing to do everything they can to address this issue. We have got to
That's
do that as a nation.
precisely the kind of thought process, I think I encourage people to go to. It's not
Yeah.
about what party is so and so from, or, you know, um, a lot of like the candidates, or the parties. It's really about, okay, what issues do you care about? And are you voting those values, right? So
Yes.
you are committed to the climate. So I'm sure you know who's on your ballot from the presidential level all the way down. And I'm sure you probably know what their climate policy is. So I'd encourage everyone, if this is an issue that matters to you, look at who's on your ballot. Do your research. There's a lot of organizations, and when I post, this episode, I'll put out a Substack with all the resources you need. But that's critical. I'm sure you see differences, right? When you look at the candidates on your ballot, there are candidates on the ballot that will not say anything about climate change, or they may still be denying it. Um, and I'm sure there are candidates that have some pretty darn good climate policy agendas. So if this is
Yes.
an issue that matters to you, know who you're voting for and where they
Yep.
stand on it, right?
Yep. Yes. And there is, I'd encourage folks to check out. There's resources and things like Sunrise Movement and others that are really focused in on the political side of climate, and and that's great. Like I said, there's so many different ways to address this,
Right.
and and the politics of it is one of the key things.
Right. Well, hopefully people, take this message to heart. Um, at the very least before election day, because it's rapidly approaching, they become informed on where their candidates stand on climate. And then after that, maybe around the holidays, they can gather their family at Thanksgiving and say, "Hey, everyone, we got a fun activity for after
That's
dinner."
right.
Maybe not. Video one seems like it might be a little bit much for that evening, but I do think this is just such an awesome program, and I personally can't wait to force my family to do it. They're so tired of
Wonderful.
talking about policy with me. Maybe if I say I won't talk, let's just watch the video, they'll like it.
Yes.
So once again, if people want to do the week, they go to your website, click
Yep.
a button, theweek.000.
Yes. The week.000, and you click on the organize a session, and it'll walk you through the steps.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to let you get back to your canvassing and your super important work. So thank you for everything
Uh,
you're doing. And
Thank you, Nicole.
hopefully we have a lot of people doing this program. I can't wait. That it's going to be, I'm really looking forward to it. So
Wonderful. Thanks so much.
thank you.